So in the last few videos, we have used an LLM to connect to a database, ask it some questions that involve multi-table joins, ask it to do some visualization. In today's video, I'm going to do some data modeling. So I'm going to connect to a SQL database. So I'm running this locally. So this is a project I've been working on called VerbaGPT. So it runs locally. So this is on a fairly low-powered laptop and runs in a browser. And I actually have a SQL instance available to me. So I'm going to switch to a local SQL instance that not on the cloud. So it's locally on my laptop. I'm going to connect to a database. This database has a few tables. I'm not going to specify the table. I'm going to let the LLM figure out which one is the relevant table that I'm talking about. So, okay, so it's connected to my SQL server, my database, and I'm going to be using GPT 3.5. I'm going to ask it a question. Oh, and I'm going to be using the iris dataset. So if you're not familiar, that's a dataset that has 3 different types of flower, and the task is to be able to classify which type of flower it is from the dimensions of the petals and leaves and that sort of thing. So give me 3 models to classify the iris flower. Use 20% of the data for testing. Give me a table with the rankings of the models. Yeah, okay, so give me a table. All right, so I'm asking it to do a few complicated things. So it involves some planning. It's not a simple question. I'm asking you to do one thing, but then adding conditions onto it, use 20% of the data for testing, give me a table at the end. So the LLM has to do some planning around it and figure out the answer. Okay, so here we have it. So let's see what it's doing. So importing the necessary libraries, it's loading the data, it's preparing the dependent and independent variables, it's splitting the data, it's listen to our instructions. So setting aside 20% of the data for testing. The models, it's selecting a random forest, support vector machines, nearest neighbor. Okay. All right. So it looks good, but doesn't mean it's going to run. Let's see if it actually executes. All right, very good. So we have our accuracy. In this case, the accuracy is pretty good on all the 3 models. So they're all accuracy of 1. Oops. I'm going to get a data frame out of it. So it looks like that. I'm going to add a follow-up question. Add another performance metric. Let's see if it's able to handle that in the context of the conversation and able to adapt the code. I don't even know exactly what I would do in this instance, but probably add, let's see what it's doing. A precision score is for each is added to the thing. All right. Okay. So let's see what that looks like now. Okay, so accuracy and precision. So it's still, it's classifying things perfectly. It's a pretty simple classification problem. Let's see what happens if I actually increase the test size. I think it'll start degrading if I use 30% of the data. Now I know this is making the video longer, but I'm just curious at what point does it start degrading? Okay, there we go. If I use half the data for testing, it starts degrading. Anyway, now I'm going off on a tangent, but this was just to kind of show that these LLMs can be very interesting in terms of modeling the data. Now that's a super. Now there are limitations. So what I do in these videos is that I talk about the strengths, but I also talk about limitations. So this project that I'm working on, I intend to make it available, as a free download on the website so people can play with it and explore the capabilities of this. I'm still working on the download to make it available, but in the meantime, you can play with it online. So there's an online demo on the website. There'll be a link below this video. In terms of limitations, it still can't do a lot of planning on its own. So, if in the future, I'll talk about more complicated analyses to give it, and I think it can struggle there, um, especially with more complicated data sets. So this is a pretty simple data set, right? So the iris data set is fairly simple. I think yeah, I think that's probably the biggest limitation is if you go to data sets that are complicated, that have a lot of text in them, the LLM may not have a good understanding of what is in the data set. If it's just numbers, it may be able to do a better job. But if the data set includes a combination of numeric columns and a bunch of text columns, it will struggle there to understand the context of things and to do data analysis. So we'll explore that in the future. In the meantime, if you have any thoughts, ideas, any questions you want me to explore in future videos, any useful tips and tools you want to share, if you're interested in this domain of applying LLMs to data analysis, do share below this video as well. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.